Wreckfest maintains all of its promises we expected in all these years. If you enjoyed Flat Out, you'll love Wreckfest. One fully brutal, full contact racing. 5 out of 5. 9 out of 10. 80 out of 100. 6 out of 10. 9 out of 10. I disagree. So Wreckfest got properly released a while ago. It's not in early access anymore. Yay! This fact has been on my radar for some time already, but I never got around trying it out. Since I don't make it my priority, rushing out playing games that I have had headaches with 3 times already during their development stages. What started as an interesting concept only turned into a mosh pit of uncertainty and a chaos of different ideas trying to make this game appealing somehow. That's pretty much the conclusion I got the last time. Oh yeah, and it totally wasn't worth the asking price. I made a video about Wreckfest in the past, while it was still in early access, and I had some strong words to say about it. And why not? Early access was not yet in its totally abused stages and hadn't been raped left, right and center, so I wasn't too worried about buying a game in progress from the makers of fucking Flat Out. But that's all in the past. So why do I still dislike Wreckfest? Who cares really, am I right? It's a 5 out of 5, and a 9 out of 10, an excellent this, an amazing that. What the hell do I know? I'll say this much at the beginning. If it costs a fraction of the price, I wouldn't mind it too much as a game where you just mess around. Just have some fun with the robust damage model and don't take it too seriously. Problems arise when you are asking $45 or £40 for it. At that stage, I expect a lot. Essentially, I have a game in my library that asks for huge amounts of money, expects me to just mess about and have some guilty pleasure fun, while at the same time it takes itself so seriously by what I can tell. And to be honest, I got it for much cheaper, when it was still in its initial early access stage, before the price hike, and even the money that I paid for it doesn't seem worth it. But we'll get to how I figured out that as well, don't worry. So my first reactions upon loading the finished game was, THQ Nordic? Why has this game even gone on the THQ Nordic? Couldn't Bugbear just self-publish the thing with all the money they made from being in early access? Not that I know how much money they made. Maybe, since they weren't making enough money, the game got a price hike even though it was still shit! I don't know. What the hell do I know? And not that I have proper knowledge about self-publishing a game as a developer. Probably they had ideas of getting a publisher involved eventually, after early access proves that this game has a market. Which reminds me, that's actually what Bugbear mentioned when releasing the early Next Car game, now known as Wreckfest, concept into early access. That no publisher was interested in this game, saying that there is no market for it out there.
So the publishers are telling us that there is no market for this kind of game, this raw racing game that we want to deliver. But we've been talking to the fans and we hear your message. The publishers don't know how it is.
Well, I have no idea what material they presented, but from all I've experienced, if this concept had arrived on my table, I would have told them to fuck right off. Getting into the menu, and I really dislike how trying to navigate the menu with arrow keys actually move the mouse around. As I move the mouse out of the way, trying to navigate with the arrow keys, because that's what I do in menus like this with huge windows and tabs, it's actually the mouse that gets moved. So essentially my keyboard is controlling my mouse now. That just makes me go crazy. It's stupid. So enough foreplay, let's do some racing. I set up my thrustmaster, wheel and shifter, all assists off, manual H pattern plus clutch, realistic damage, let's go! Cockpit camera, career mode. The first track. How do I describe this in one word? Boring, lackluster, unfair, a shitty tutorial. That's too many words! Ah, shit. Well, that's how I felt. This track would have served very well for an MX bike discipline because of these bumps, but not for vehicles, but not for scrap cars. This track is very short, repetitive, and how many laps? 6? Ugh, that's not fun. That's a chore. Unfortunately, the tracks don't get much better. And this is where the direct comparison to Flat Out is going to start appearing at times. Essentially, I did 4 events and got sick of the game. Actually, I got sick of it during the first one really, but I pushed through. What did I notice during that time? When you're racing, you have a wide variety of things that can show up on screen damaged. Brake fluids, radiators, dampers leaking, etc, etc. Seems rather advanced, doesn't it? It does actually. But why have all this advanced information during the race which just distracts the player and doesn't actually give you any meaningful information about the status of your vehicle and its health? You even have a graph in the lower left corner that has things lighting up red. And to be honest, that's also a convoluted piece of information when in a race. The slider with your car's HP is enough. Don't need to overthink certain things. Brakes have stopped working. Instead of fluids leaking, bend this, damage that, which doesn't actually give you a proper idea of what's actually happening. You know why all this information is there? I mentioned that already. This game is taking itself too seriously and implementing these realistic simulation-esque elements. But why? They're completely unnecessary. Sorry, I promised a comparison to Flatout, but skipped over the tracks. I'll use Flatout 2 in particular for the comparison. Can you spot the major difference between tracks in Wreckfest and Flatout 2? It's the variety. I went out of my way and loaded up Flatout 2 while making this. I spent a little bit over an hour in order to make some comparisons and bring some memories back. The very first event in Flatout has 3 different tracks, and each one is unique. They are set in completely different locations with vastly different landscapes. What does Wreckfest have? Fuck all. Lackluster, boring and very short tracks because the game limits itself, trying to maintain this semi-serious, semi-official racer look. But all it does is ruin everything. You even have crowds of people watching the race. Why try and make it so serious and force it to have this authentic racing feel? I couldn't care less of it looking like a folk racer. Why even bother? Who the hell knows? Bugbear even said in their own video that scrap cars are perfect for crashing into each other.
We love these old rusty cars. When you're driving a car like this, it really makes you want to eat something.
Which is true, but why have them being so shit? Flatout also had scrap cars, which were essentially scrapped replicas of real-life vehicles. Maybe Wreckfest is doing the same thing, but I couldn't recognize any of the cars, so I assume they are just generic pieces of metal on wheels. Boring. Maybe I've been doing it all wrong this whole time. Maybe this game is not supposed to be taken so seriously, even though it takes itself that way. Maybe using wheel and pedals and cockpit camera is not the most optimal way. And since I'm comparing it to Flatout 2, which I always played with a keyboard, let's level the playing field. So arrow keys, numbers 1 and 2 for shifting gears, half stability and traction assist, let's not go full retard. Third person view, let's go! Well, it's certainly better, but it's still crap. It's slightly more endurable, but all the criticism still stands, so let's continue. With making it trying to be so authentic, the driving model also suffers a lot. The way this game is marketed makes you think like it encourages you to be in constant contact with other cars, crash into one another and have a blast. It couldn't be further from the truth. What Wreckfest did well was make me be afraid of crashing instead, because it totally ruins your chances of winning. If you want to encourage me in blasting into other cars and going all over the place, then loosen the driving model up. It's very stiff. Getting back on track takes ages. There's no nitrous. Of course there's no nitrous! Because that would be unrealistic. Nitrous that fills up as you crash into stuff. Are you crazy?
Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind?
No, I'm not. That's what made Flatout so fun. You blast into another car, smash it into a wall, spin yourself out, get back on track, nitrous your way back to the top, crash some more, have a blast. Not only driving in Wreckfest is lackluster, it doesn't even have nitrous to give you a boost. The AI is overly aggressive. They just crash into you and try to spin you out, slowing you down, just to ruin your hopes of winning even more. There are too many cars on track. There's a mosh pit of a large number of cars just smashing left and right. Good luck finishing first. And do it in 3 fucking laps. And do it in this short track. The fuck? Oh, and you have reached the semi-finals. Well, maybe the car amount will be reduced from 24 to 12. Fuck no! Congrats, you are now able to participate in the finals. Maybe now there will be less cars on track to make it more about skill rather than luck. Ha! Go fuck yourself! Finish first in 3 laps in this track, where 1 lap lasts around 30 seconds, and start at the bottom of the pack. Oh yeah, and fuck you while you're at it. So you're charging $45 for a racing game where I'm not supposed to win? Where it's totally up to how lucky I am? What the hell is wrong with you? I've never encountered a racing game which constantly holds you back from winning a race. Oh yeah, and it costs $45 fucking dollars. And another thing, what the hell is it with this rival thing? Some AI car crashes into you and he is now your rival. Crash right back into that car to get extra XP. What? I don't have time for that. I'm too busy avoiding crashes and trying to win to get some career points so I can unlock new events. What the fuck? Another thing. Why do all the custom races, which are just quick races outside of the career, only allow me to use the cars I have bought in my career mode? Essentially, when you first load up your game, there's only one basic generic piece of scrap shit of a car there. Why are you being so restrictive? Flat out. Pick up what you want and go and have some fun when and how you want. I'm not even going into describing the demolition derby. Ugh. So to sum it all up, good old flat out. Don't give a fuck, just have a blast when and how you want. Crash into others left and right and don't even get punished. Wreckfest. Oh, get away! I need to finish the race! Do you realize how wasted this damage model is? It's so robust. You know what games would benefit from being able to get total in one crash? Proper rally games, Formula 1 games. Those are the games that are supposed to and are trying very well to be realistic and authentic. What always has held them back is the damage model. Now, having something like what Bugbear has made would be totally amazing. But in Wreckfest, when you are in a 24-car mosh pit in a narrow track with 3 laps to finish first, and you start at the very end, and the race finishes just as quickly as it loads up, slightly exaggerating there of course, you can stick that damage model right up. Now, I'm not here to recommend Flatout over Wreckfest. That's a bit too silly. What I would recommend to someone that wants something spiritually similar to Flatout, and is released in 2010s, is Gas Guzzlers Extreme. Balls to the wall racing, power-ups, nitrous weapons, different game modes, similar variety of tracks to Flatout, though the tracks can repeat a bit more often at times, and it costs a fraction of the price. Now that is something I would expect as a successor to Flatout, instead of this Wreckfest nonsense. You just needed to try and generate some sentiment by mentioning that you have made those games, because Wreckfest is not a successor to those series in any way. Wreckfest is more like robust damage model, the tech demo, and that's it. It is more of a gimmick than a game. And it costs $45, like all cash-grabbing gimmicky tech demos definitely should cost. Break the rules and take full contact racing to the limit. Ha! Full contact? Avoid contact at all costs, more like it. Break the rules. The road splits slightly over here. I decided to jump over this hill to get on the tarmac and away from gravel. I knew it was not practical and I should just stay in my lane, because I would lose too much speed. I went over the hill anyways, and eventually I needed to reset my car, because apparently I had cut a corner. Break the rules. Fuck right off. Neck-to-neck fights over the finish line. Yeah, who will finish 10th instead of 11th? Whoop-de-doo. Exhilarating no-rules racing. I got punished for taking a less practical route, you fucks! But what do I reckon would be a justifiable price then? As I stated, for me it just seems like a tech demo for the damage model. So for a guilty pleasure crashing fun, $4.99. That's my personal opinion based on what value I see in Wreckfest. But what about multiplayer though? Who cares?
We get daily messages from our fans and they're all saying the same thing. They want us to make another game like Flatout, but a game that captures the true feel of Flatout. And that really plays into our whole passion of no rules racing.
Finally, a true, honest follow-up to Flatout.